In the heart of ancient Rome, where marble gleamed under a merciless sun, the Vestal Virgins were more than women. They were Rome's sacred flame. Chosen as children, as young as 6, they were torn from their mother's arms and bound to a life of chastity, silence, and divine duty. For 30 years, they served Vesta, goddess of the hearth, keeping her eternal fire burning. One mistake, one whisper of scandal, and they faced a fate worse than death, burial alive, sealed in a tomb beneath the city. This is the story of one Vestal, Emilia, and the Rome that both worshipped and destroyed her. Emilia was 7 when they came for her. It was 80 BCE, and Rome buzzed with the clatter of chariots and the roar of the Forum. Her father, a minor senator, stood rigid as priests entered their modest villa. "She is chosen," they said, their voices heavy with ceremony. Emilia's mother wept, her hands trembling as she braided her daughter's hair one last time. The priests offered no comfort, only a white veil, the symbol of Vesta's service. Emilia, wide-eyed, didn't understand. She only knew the air felt heavy, like a storm was coming. The Temple of Vesta was a world apart. Nestled in the Forum, its circular walls glowed under torchlight. Emilia was led inside, her small feet echoing on marble. The other Vestals, older, stern, taught her the rites. Tend the fire, never let it die, for its flame was Rome's soul. Chastity was her vow, sworn before the gods. "Your body is Vesta's," the high priestess said, her eyes cold. Emilia learned quickly, smile, obey, be silent. But at night, alone in her chamber, she whispered her mother's name, a secret rebellion against the stone walls. Life as a Vestal was a paradox. Emilia lived in luxury, silk robes, private gardens, seats of honor at the Colosseum. She could free prisoners with a glance, own property, write wills. Freed from marriage, she was untouchable, revered. Yet every step was watched, every word weighed. The Pontifex Maximus, Rome's chief priest, loomed over her life, his authority absolute. "You are Rome's purity," he said. But Emilia felt the truth. She was a symbol, not a woman. Her power came at the cost of her freedom. Rome's obsession with the Vestals was rooted in fear. Vesta's fire protected the city. If it flickered, if a virgin strayed, the gods would turn away. Famine, plague, lost battles, all blamed on a broken vow. Emilia saw it firsthand when crops failed in 75 BCE. Whispers spread, a Vestal had sinned. The city rioted, demanding purity. Emilia, now 12, stood by the fire, her hands trembling as she fed it kindling. The older Vestals' faces were grim. "One of us," they whispered. "It's always one of us." The punishment for a Vestal's sin was no ordinary death. Rome couldn't spill sacred blood, that would anger Vesta. So they devised a ritual, a spectacle of cruelty dressed as piety. The guilty virgin would be stripped of her veil, her hair shorn like a slave's. Crowds would gather, jeering, as she was paraded through the Forum. Priests chanted, torches blazed. Then, she'd be led to a chamber, a tomb, dug deep beneath the earth. Inside, a lamp, a loaf of bread, a jug of water. Enough to prolong the agony. Then the entrance was sealed. No blood, just silence. Emilia learned of this fate through whispers. At 16, she overheard the older Vestals speak of Licinia, accused of impurity a decade before. No proof, just rumors from a rival senator. Licinia's trial was a farce. Accusations shouted in the Senate, no defense allowed. Emilia imagined her, entombed, scratching at stone walls until her nails bled. Did she scream? Emilia asked. The high priestess slapped her. "Never speak of it," she hissed. But Emilia couldn't forget. The fire she tended felt like a threat. By her 20s, Emilia was a vision of grace. Her beauty drew eyes at every festival, her white robes glowing against the Forum's dust. She was chief Vestal now, her voice soft but commanding. Yet Rome was changing. Sulla's dictatorship had torn the city apart, and political enemies hunted scapegoats. Emilia felt the weight of eyes, not just the gods, but the Senate's. A young tribune, Lucius, lingered too long at the temple, his smile too warm. Emilia's heart raced, but she turned away. One touch could end her. The accusation came in 70 BCE, swift and merciless. A senator, bitter over a lost election, pointed at Emilia. "She's impure," he declared in the Senate. No evidence, no lover named, just whispers of Lucius's visits. The Pontifex Maximus, eager to please the mob, summoned Emilia. Her trial was no trial at all. She stood silent as men debated her body, her purity, her worth. The gods demand justice, the Pontifex said. Emilia's sisters, the other Vestals, turned away, their eyes wet but their lips sealed. Betrayal cut deeper than any blade. The ritual began at dawn. Emilia's veil was torn from her head, her long hair hacked off with a blunt knife. The crowd's jeers echoed through the forum, their faces twisted with righteous fury. Emilia walked, head high, refusing to beg. Priests chanted hymns to Vesta, their voices drowning out her heartbeat. Torches cast long shadows as they led her to the Colleen Gate. There, a pit waited, a stone chamber, barely wide enough for her body. A lamp flickered inside, mocking her with its fleeting light. They lowered her into the tomb. Emilia's hands shook as she clutched the bread, the water. The air was damp, heavy with earth. "I am innocent," she whispered, her voice breaking. The priest didn't answer. Stone scraped against stone as the slab sealed her in. Darkness swallowed her. Above, the crowd dispersed, their bloodlust sated. Rome moved on, chariots rolled, markets hummed. But below, Emilia's breaths grew shallow, each one a battle against the crushing dark. She didn't scream, not at first. Emilia sat, her back against the cold stone, her mind racing. She thought of her mother, her childhood, the fire she'd tended for 20 years. She thought of Lucius, his forbidden smile. Was he dead too? Beaten, whipped, erased? Men's punishments were swift, their blood allowed to spill. But hers was slow, deliberate, a spectacle for the gods. Emilia scratched at the walls, her fingers raw. The lamp flickered out. The air grew thin. She whispered Vesta's name, but no goddess answered. Days passed, or hours. Time dissolved in the dark. Emilia's strength faded, her body curling into itself. She dreamed of sunlight, of her mother's voice. She saw faces, Licenia, Postumia, Tuccia, all buried, all forgotten. Why? She gasped, her voice a ghost. The gods were silent. Rome was silent. Her fingers traced the stone, searching for a crack, a hope. There was none. The bread was gone, the water a memory. Her last breath was a prayer, not for salvation, but for someone to remember. Above, Rome celebrated. The senator who accused her won his election. The Pontifex Maximus praised Vesta's justice. But the city felt no peace. Crops withered again. Soldiers fell in distant wars. Whispers spread, the gods were angry. Emilia's tomb, unmarked, became a secret. Servants claimed they heard scratching beneath the Colleen Gate. A guard swore he saw a figure in white, her eyes burning through the night. The Vestals, still tending the fire, worked in silence, haunted by Emilia's fate. Legends grew, despite Rome's efforts to bury them. A story whispered among the hills. One Vestal escaped. Not Emilia, but another, her name lost to time. A guard, moved by pity, unlocked her chains before the tomb was sealed. She fled to the Sabine hills, living as a hermit, tending a fire to a forgotten goddess. She never spoke, but her flame burned each dawn, a defiance Rome couldn't extinguish. The tale was banned, its tellers whipped, but it lived in the shadows, a spark of hope. The Vestal's punishment wasn't just about chastity. It was about control. Rome revered its virgins, but feared their power. They could own land, defy marriage, walk among emperors. Yet one whisper, one rumor, and they were nothing. Their deaths were theater, public, ritualized, meant to terrify. Emilia's tomb was a warning to every woman. Stay pure, stay silent, or be buried. The men accused with them? Whipped or beheaded, their deaths quick, forgettable. But the Vestal's suffering was sacred, prolonged, divine. Emperors tried to reform the system. Augustus, in his early reign, softened the rules, allowing some accused Vestals exile. But the old ways returned. When empires faltered, when plagues struck, the Vestals were scapegoats. Their purity was Rome's currency, their deaths its insurance. The people watched, cheering as the tombs were sealed. Yet some wept in secret, mothers and sisters who knew the cost of being seen, of being sacred, of being a woman in a city that worshipped order above all. Archaeologists, centuries later, found a chamber beneath the Roman Forum. A cramped stone room, no door, just a hole above. Inside, They found fragments, a lamp, a shard of pottery, a faint scratch on the wall, like fingernails clawing for air. Was it Emilius? No one knows. But locals still speak of whispers in the ruins, of breaths carried on the wind. The Vestal story wasn't buried, not completely. Their silence became a scream, echoing through Rome's crumbling stones. The Vestals were more than priestesses. They were Rome's mirror, reflecting its fear of women who held power, who stood apart. Their deaths weren't justice. They were sacrifices to a city obsessed with control. Emilia, Licinia, Tuccia, their names were erased, their graves unmarked. Yet their story survived, not in Rome's histories, but in the whispers of those who dared remember. The flame of Vesta is gone, but its smoke lingers, curling through the cracks of a city that tried to forget. Why does this matter now? Because the Vestal story is a warning. Power still polices purity. Women are still judged, their bodies battlegrounds for control. Rome's tombs may be ruins, but the idea lives on. Defy and be buried. Emilius' last breath was a question. Who will remember? The answer is us. We carry her story, not because Rome preserved it, but because history clings to its martyrs, even those sealed in silence. So stand in the forum where the Vestals once walked. Look at the stones, cracked and worn. Listen to the wind. You might hear it, faint, but there. A breath, a whisper, a life Rome tried to bury. Emilius' fire is out, but her defiance burns. And in that defiance, we see the truth. Rome didn't just punish its Vestals. It feared them, because even in death, they refused to be forgotten.